Welcome everybody. It's a pleasure for me to be speaking at my 4th Rep conference and the last one that I'm attending as president. I've massively enjoyed the last 20 months that I've spent as a sabbatical officer. It's been a huge privilege. What I'm going to do today in the next couple of minutes is tell you about not just the amazing wins I've achieved for you as the president, but also talk about some of the things that could have been improved for next year anyway. So starting from the positive things. Last year we were consulted and played a huge role in the development of the university's new strategic plan. We also developed the Students' Union's strategic plan as well, which is really ambitious and pragmatic. It is now in the university's KPIs to promote student representation and promote our sports and student activity groups as well. That's a huge win for us. We've successfully presented the business case for investment in our cafe and bar for over £500,000. And I'm really pleased to tell you that that's going ahead for this summer, and I'm really excited about that. We will also be hiring a new events coordinator to ensure that there are plenty of social events to make sure that we're making the most of our new cafe and our bar. Apart from that, we asked the university for extra spaces across campus which weren't utilized. Within the university house, the International Life Centre was one of them. And you can see that it's known as the Activities Hub ever since we've taken it over, it's much better utilized by students. We also asked the university for funding for a 5th sabbatical officer, so next year instead of having 4 stars, you'll have 5. And we've got 2 attending the Rep conference today, Fiza and Marina. Hello, good to have you here. And we've also asked the university for an increase in our block grant. We've asked them for £200,000 more, and we know by the end of May, hopefully, whether we're getting that or not. Because we want to do more for you as a union. We want to be able to engage with students more, and we just want to have a bigger impact as an organization. And I'm sure that the new team will take the union to even greater heights. And now for some of the things that could definitely improve. From my experience, there's not enough accountability in the students' union, mainly because the student council didn't really succeed. We don't have enough people challenging us and enough people questioning the things that we do. So we do need more of that. You are obviously, the ambassadors of the union. The students' union is not just the president or 4 sabbatical officers. It's all of us. All of us are ambassadors of the union. And together, it's what we do, unitedly that defines us as an organization. So I'd just like to thank you all for all the work that you do on a course level and on the school level as well, because without the grassroots impact, we wouldn't really be doing much. So thank you all for all your hard work. I have 3 months left in my term as president. I want to be hearing from you as much as possible because I want to change as many things as I possibly can for you. So yeah, just keep in touch and keep emailing me, keep messaging me as much as you want. And on a final note, some of you might have heard about the marking boycott announced by the UCU. We as a union have decided to oppose that officially. We can sympathize with the pay situation that our academic staff members are in, but a marking boycott would obviously hugely negatively would have a huge negative impact on the students, especially those who are graduating. We're working with the university to mitigate the impact and to minimize the negative impact, especially students who are graduating this year, and also especially students in health and social care, because obviously the credits can't really be sort of transferred if there is a marking boycott in the situation of health students. So we are lobbying the university to mitigate the impact, and we've officially we'll be officially releasing a statement in opposition to the marking boycott. That's it for me. Thank you.
Hello guys, welcome to the second conference of the year. I'll keep this short and sweet because, my name is Jasmine Pakua and I am the Vice President of Health and Social Care. At the last student rep conference, I updated you on the things that I have done so far. This semester has been really hectic because of elections going on, blah. I'm delighted to tell you guys that you've got me for another year and will be elected as Vice President again. Yay! So, in the near future, I'm hoping to start a safety campaign, and this is going to include making sure that you guys are all aware of the safe zones and just being aware of your safety in Salford and Salford area in general. Secondly, I'm going to ensure that the communication between the student reps and ourselves is good, because at the moment we feel like we don't get all the issues and sometimes this leads to escalation, so it'll be part of our remit to make sure that the student rep and vice president's relationship is better. So yeah, that's it from me. Cool.
How are we? Hi. My name is Alex Thorpe. I'm the Vice President of Science and Technology. Some of you know and some of you don't. Hello. I'll just basically tell you what I've been doing since we last spoke, which is the last rep conference. For the most part, I've been chasing up coursework that was submitted and was not turned around within the 3-week turnaround period. I spent a lot of my time in January and early February doing that. Some students were submitting work in October and didn't have it back until February. It just wasn't good enough, so that was a lot of my time. I don't mind doing it, but university shouldn't be putting me in a position to do that really, so we're going to be hot on the heels of that for the next couple of years. I would say the second rec night, if anyone came to that in February, that was a big event for us. We had over 550 people attend. It was pretty mad. Also, something I've been trying to push across my college is the library champion scheme. I know that Simon, our ELS rep, has completely spent a £3,000 budget, which is fantastic. We need to just spend that really. It's money to be spent on books, so please spend it. The Echelon Tour program is still running. We had some really good ones pre-election period. They dropped off a bit after election, so we need to pick that up and start that really picking up again. And also elections, that was a big period of my time that was taken really, and I was looking to be re-elected, so thank you for that. I'm here until July 2015. And what have I been doing from now? Well, you may have talked to me before about my passion for sorting out the catering across the whole campus. It's pretty shoddy at the moment. So hopefully we're going to have a new catering company in by this September. That includes everything across the whole campus. It's one big contract. That's what I want to work on a lot. Also working with the state regarding the Gateway project, which you can see the construction outside the library. And new accommodation, there's stuff in there that's not been set in concrete yet. There's still decisions to be made on it, and I'll be sitting on those decision-making boards and panels. Graduation, for you guys that are graduating, yes, some of us will be on the stage, sitting there and watching you, maybe in the fall when you come and get your degree, but we'll be there. It's a long time. Also, Nisha talked about the bar and cafe refurbishment we've secured. We're going to make sure that that's run well over the next year at least. Going to be really good from September. And we're introducing new demographic structures regarding our college forums. I believe in April they'll be starting in my college, so you'll be getting science technology reps will be getting invitations to that soon. And I'd just like to mention, obviously you guys, the reason you're here, the feet on the ground really. We can't be everywhere. We need you guys to be out with the students, let us know what's going on. Please be communicative. I don't speak to enough of you. I want you to speak to me and tell me what's going on. Communication is massively key. I said this at the last rep conference. We need to just keep talking. Thank you very much for listening. Now we've got Todd.
Hello student reps, I'm Thomas Hewitt, Vice President for Arts and Social Sciences. Rather than talk about what we've done, I just wanted to talk about you being student reps. I started off as a student rep in my first year and it was a fantastic experience. Sometimes you want massive things to change, but it's a case of slowly building up. The next year I was a school rep and it was a fantastic job, so that's when they're coming out soon. You can start, if you fancy taking the next step and becoming a school rep, it's an absolutely fantastic job to take up. I'd totally encourage every one of you who's available next year to go for it. And you are the most important people within the Students' Union movement because you're the ones who tell us about what's happening. And without you, the Students' Union would be nothing. And without you being so committed, without you really sort of fighting for what students need on your courses, we couldn't do half of what we do. So I just want to say a big thank you to all of you, just fantastic student reps. But I really want to start changing the way we do things. I really want to start talking to you a lot more. I want you to start talking to me a lot more. I want to sort of, I really want to start fighting for things. I really want you to start demanding what you need, what you want from your course. I want you to demand what you need, what you want, and what you deserve. Because we're all students, we're all paying money for what we're doing. So why not start demanding pay? So I'm going to say big thank you to all the student reps. You'll probably see what I've done online, on Twitter, on Facebook. So thank you. Thanks for coming. Cheers.
Can everyone hear us if we just speak without a microphone?
I think it's working. Right, now on to the question and answer session. We have two associate dean academics from the university, Gay Murphy and Jonathan Carson from Science and Technology and Arts and Media respectively. We are just going to read out the questions that you submitted to us before this event and some of the answers that have been given to us by panelists who couldn't be with us today. Jasmine, do you want to read the first question and answer? Thanks.
Okay, this is from the Salford Business School student rep. A lot of students feel they have been failed in their support plans and with feedback. What action is intended to rectify these? The school is not aware, this is the answer by the way, the school is not aware of any problems with the implementation of student support plans. However, if the students are encountering difficulties, they should contact their program director, personal tutor or the school office at Lady Hill reception who will investigate any specific issues and signpost them to dedicated student life assistance where appropriate. It is not clear from the question whether the feedback issue relates to student support plans or is a more general issue. If it's a general issue, the school is aware of significant delays encountered by students in receiving feedback on 2 undergraduate modules and has been working with the students to ensure that the assessment and moderation of marks was completed as quickly as possible and that students were kept informed of progress. Students have now received feedback on both their work and their modules. However, we apologise for this unacceptable delay and thank them for the patience and the matter being dealt with.
I'll do the next question. This is a question from a student rep in the School of Health Sciences. Is Practitioner and Development module assigned for all courses or just sports and exercise related activities, as it's deemed not important by all my peers and those in the years above? And the answer from the school is, this module does only run in the sports and exercise programs. My understanding is that the program team have already reviewed and amended this module for September 2014-2015 based on previous student feedback. This was discussed with Ms. Christine Smith, the Director of Sport, Exercise and Physiotherapy, who advised that further information about this could be discussed at the next directorate. student-staff meeting. Or alternatively, the student rep could speak with their program leader for further details. So I hope that question was answered. The next one is another one from Health Sciences.
Does anyone want to read out the questions from the crowd? A health sciences student? No? Okay. My question is that for every day after an assignment deadline, marks are deducted from an overall mark. However, in our year, a student accidentally submitted a document with nothing more than 100 words, and there was no way to correct this. The student emailed the module leader, and they requested that the student send them a finalized version straight away in order for them to prove that the student had in fact completed the assignment. We as a group find it extremely unfair if a student submits work 3 days late or even longer. They have the opportunity of scoring more than the student does when they retake in the summer because their mark will be docked at 40. Is there a way to resolve this issue? Answer. Arguably, the correct procedure has not been followed here by the academic member of staff. Section 3.49 of the Assessment and Feedback Tool Awards policy clearly states, whether online or offline, it is the student's responsibility to ensure that his work is submitted successfully and that the correct version has been submitted. Once work has been submitted, whether online or offline, it cannot be withdrawn by the student or a member of staff. In the case of online submission, it is the student's responsibility to ensure that it is submitted to the correct alternative folder or equivalent. Therefore, in circumstances described above, the work submitted, albeit error by the student, should have been marked. I have discussed this with Miss Deborah Whittaker, the AHA in the school, who is to send an email to academic colleagues in schools and reinforce the above regulation.
Right, thanks, Jasmine. I'm now going to ask again Jonathan to sort of briefly explain your role in the university and what it is that you do. Over to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. So I'm an Associate Dean Academic, and that means that I work at college level, which is one level above the schools. And what we are there to do is to make sure that perhaps the more strategic stuff that we would want to introduce is dealt with, but that also we are looking at the concerns that you are raising and making sure that those are actually responded to. Clearly what we want to happen is that if you as a student rep have been asked to raise something, that you would do that through the normal channels, either by talking to your programme leader or attending the staff-student committees. Do you all attend the staff-student and committee meetings? Some nodding. Yeah. They're really important because they gather the general issues. So some of those issues we hope will be resolved very quickly by your programme leader or by the schools. But in addition to that, we have a quality committee that sits at college level, and each of the schools has to present the main issues that were raised by students during that staff-student committee meeting. And we will then look at, is that something that the programme leader can fix, or that the school can fix, or is it a general thing that perhaps we need to look at in more detail. So it's really important that you as student reps make sure that things are being resolved. That's your biggest role, is to raise issues so that things can be resolved. So that people like Jonathan and myself might go back and actually say, perhaps we need to review this policy because, and we do look at our academic regulations every year. You're really lucky that you don't have to. But we review them every year, and we go through and look to see whether they are still fit for purpose. And just like schools are inspected by Ofsted, we have the QAA institutional, that they come in and do an institutional review. And the biggest question they want answered is, how do you listen to your students? where is the student voice? So the student union is really important because they will be raising strategic issues and operational issues, but you as student reps are really important in making sure that things are fixed as quickly as possible. So I've gone on a bit really, but so I sit on lots of university committees where we look at various issues. We might look at assessment, we might look at feedback, we might look at recruitment. You know, how did you find the journey from, say, college into university? Did you find that was quite an easy transition, or did you find it quite difficult? How did you feel being at university? So we look at all of these things. We look at reasons why students don't always finish their programmes. So we look at a range of things and we try to make it better. That's really what Jonathan and I are trying to do, is to make sure that we've listened to the student voice and we've taken that on board. So without further ado...
What can I add to that? Okay, so hello, and thank you for the opportunity to come today. It's good to be here. I'm also an Associate Dean Academic, but I'm one of two Associate Dean Academics in Arts and Media, and we're split into a kind of assurance and an enhancement kind of division of duties. So my concern is about enhancement. And as part of that, to echo a lot of what Gates was saying, I'm interested very much into the student voice. I work on a regular basis with Todd. We meet very rarely, met on Monday, indeed, Todd and I, in order to look at kind of school themes, issues that are coming up across the board that need to be addressed, but also with a mind to enhancement. I'm interested in looking for how we can do the things that we're doing really well already even better, and to try and embed them as a kind of consistent experience across all of your experiences when you're, depending on the discipline that you're studying, but in order to kind of give you that kind of enhanced experience when you're at university. Again, I think a lot of our duties would be similar, so the description Gary's given you covers much of what I do, but I'm particularly interested in enhancement and the student voice. That's my presence here today.
Thank you. We've got a couple of more questions before we open it up to the floor. The first one is from a student rep in the School of Computing, Science and Engineering. And the question is, are there any plans to improve the MAM system at Media City, which has had many, many issues this past semester?
Okay, so I went back to the School of Computing, Science and Engineering to see what issues have been raised with them. Now, they have had a couple of committee meetings, and their concern is that these problems don't seem to have been raised at the staff-student committee. So I guess I would throw it back to the person who put it in and make sure that they're either telling their programme leader, Dave Eustace, or going to the staff-student committee meeting and making sure that the issues are raised there so they can go back and talk to the technical people. Having said that, I did then talk to the guy that operates the MAM down at Media City, and I think he said there were some issues maybe in December where there was an update going on. But apart from that, he wasn't clear about any further issues. So please, if you have any further information, do let me know and I will follow it up. And it will be a question that I will bubble up just to make sure that people at the top of the university know. Once you've given me some further information, I can then raise that as a potential concern, and that will be dealt with at our operations board by, and that's chaired by our registrar. So she is also keen to know if there are particular issues. So I think there were issues last year, particularly in Jonathan's school, but I'm not aware, so if the rep can either drop me a line or talk to David Eustace, we'd be really keen to hear what your issues were.
Perhaps more generally, yes, it's an understatement to say we had problems last year. There was a big problem with the MAM last year. It failed at one particular point in the year. But we really want to make sure that doesn't happen again. So it will be very welcome to feedback to hear if you do have very specific issues that you're experiencing with the MAM. I just wanted to name check the student, let me get the title right. I think it's the Media City Student Forum group that sits on a monthly basis, and to encourage reps who are based at Media City to use that forum as a place to air any kind of feedback about things like the MAM that are unique to that space. For those of you who don't know what this is, the MAM is the Media Asset Management System that's based uniquely at Media City as a digital space in which work can be undertaken. So it's unique to Media City. But it is really worthwhile bringing feedback to that forum so that we can look for improvements in that group and we can actually make the MAM even better, because it's a really great piece of equipment, which is it's kind of thing. That's the technical term, a thing. It's got potential that I think is unrealised yet, so I think there's a lot more work we can do with the MAM, and that kind of feedback would be very welcome through those channels. And of course, if there are lots of media students in the room who want to bring that back to me, you can do that through TARD, through staff student committees, in the same sort of ways that Gail has mentioned there.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm now going to open it up to the floor now, so if you've got questions, just raise your hand. You will be given a mic.
Somebody must have a question, or is it all perfect? Hands up, it's
really
all perfect.
Oh, there. I see him. There. Name your course and your question.
Just wanted to say, because I'm the School of Health Sciences rep and library champion as well, and I don't think there's much that has been done to encourage students about the whole library champion scheme, and there's lots of students who are still unaware of it. I mean, I have tried contacting my reps, so I think the university needs to do more.
Okay, that's a really important point. We introduced the Library Champion Scheme 1 or 2 years ago, and it's a budget that students in particular subject areas can then say, I would really like this book in the library, and the library will then buy it for you. So we will certainly take that back, and we'll get a bit more publicity out about library champions and exactly what they do, who they are, and how you can get more books for your programme. So we'll have a look at that, because it's been running, I think, a couple of years now, so it's probably time to be reviewed and to see whether there are more things that we can do. So I will take it upon myself to try and get a meeting with our library people and the library champions together so that we can take that forward. Okay?
Can I just throw it back slightly to say it would be really helpful if you'd emphasise it too as reps, because I know at the moment we've not spent that budget hard, have we? And I'm desperate to see it spent. I don't want that money to be lost. And I really it won't be lost. But I'd like to see it spent on the library resources, and it's a good moment to say what a fantastic scheme I think it is, and to emphasise that actually you can use it for all types of resource. You can't use it for journals, because you can't buy a subscription on an ongoing basis through this budget. You can use it for things like DVDs and Blu-rays, you can use it for sheet music, you can use it for books that you think are uniquely required, that could be very visual, you're in a creative programme, or could be about textbooks that you think are required according to the different disciplines that you're studying. So I'd really emphasise that we need to work on it together, really, in terms of increasing the profile through the rep system, as well as looking back to the university to try and increase presence on campus and your knowledge about it as well, because it would be a real shame to lose this. It seems to me a really good resource. So let's try and find ways to spend it together. Or maybe I can just spend it all. I need a couple of nice new pairs of shoes.
Thank you, and I think we've got another question.
I realise this isn't one you can probably answer straight away, but it was something that we were discussing earlier on this week with some of the students in my group. And we were wondering if we can find out exactly what the cost savings were overall in the end by moving all the books over to Clifford Whitworth away from Allerton, because it's really quite inconvenienced us, and we want to know what the benefit has been to the university.
Well, I was part of a working group that was initially looking at the logistics of the move. It wasn't a financial position, so I don't know that information off the top of my head. But what I can say is that there is at the moment a review of that process going on, and there's that review is about how the whole process is undertaken. It'll look at how the consultation processes were undertaken, and it'll look at when it happened, in order to really learn how to do this better in the future. And in terms of that financial position, I'm not sure whether the cost savings will emerge from that review and how meaningful they'll be at this stage. But it's really just to assure you that a review is underway. And again, it's something we can take back as feedback today. And I can carry into that review. I can take this comment and your question back if you'd like me to do that as part of that review process. It's perhaps impacted my school, college less than others, but I know really it has been very profoundly felt in health and nursing and so on. So it's something I'm very happy to channel back through that review.
Okay, this is for Todd. I just wanted to know what the feedback was for the NCTJ, if you were looking into that for the undergrads, the journalism.
So, this is going to be a joint answer between me and Jonathan. I think I'll talk about what we did on from the union side, and Jonathan will be able to update you about what we did, what they did from the staff side. So, from the union side, obviously, we took it forward and we said, a lot of other universities offer it as part of the degree in journalism. However, we also wanted to sort of see why it wasn't being offered at Salford. So we arranged a meeting and we sort of talked about what would be available, how we'd be able to take it forward, whether it was possible to start accrediting the course, and what was required to accredit the course. I think the answer that came back was that it needed over a certain percentage of students or a certain number of students per year taking the NCTJs. However, we only get a very small amount of students ever take it. So to be able to get accredited, that would be a big issue. However, they are looking at the BJTC, which is the broadcast side of it as well, and that will hopefully be happening very, very soon, and that will be an accreditation that will happen. So the next step that we took is try and formalise that, try and formalise the NCTJ exams into something that's a bit more accessible for students, a bit more organised, so that hopefully we will start getting more students taking those exams, and hopefully then we might reach a tipping point, so that there is a sort of a point where we go, actually, what students want. We could try and accredit the course now. So I'll give it back to Jonathan, and he might be able to.
I'll just add a little bit more. The exams that are required for the NCTJ are built into, in terms of the tutoring and the kind of expertise that is required from the programme. They're kind of visible within modules, so you can make use of that tutorial experience and that lecturing and that programme content. But part of what I think that the programme team struggle with in terms of how to design this programme and to make sure it's accredited as well are some very specific aspects of what the NCTJ asks for. A key one is shorthand, which you might appreciate not everybody wants to do when they come to do a journalism programme, particularly in terms of how journalism as a discipline is evolving at this stage. So I think there's some fundamental questions about how to actually embed it for every student and whether that's what every student wants. And perhaps how to find other ways of then offering it as a kind of either additional or parallel offer to ensure that it is accessible. Now, it remains accessible at the moment. You can do NCTJ through the programme, which I realise you probably know. But there are some other kind of logistical aspects to it that emerged from the meeting that Todd and I had with the programme staff around the timing of when those exams are run, and all sorts of various things that make it hard to match our semesters and the way our modules are actually delivered on a week-by-week basis. So with that in mind, we have been looking at this, and this work is still ongoing. It hasn't concluded yet, so I don't have a full-stop answer for you today. But we're in a process of actually looking at how we might be able to improve the connections between modules you'll take and those exams in terms of the accreditation. And in parallel to that, as Todd's mentioned, we're looking also at the other accreditation body, I'm going to get it wrong, but I think it's Broadcast Journalism Training Council, BJTC, which is something that the programme staff are very keen to see embedded into the programme. This is all subject to various things like budgets, costs, all of those things, so that is all in process at the moment and we're reviewing it, but it's certainly been instigated by student feedback that's come up through Todd and the Students' Union and indeed Michelle. So we do hear that you're interested in looking for greater accreditation opportunities. So we're in process with it, and I'm hoping we'll have some conclusions about that as this semester rolls on, and we'll get them into place, depending on what the conclusion is, as soon as we possibly can.
Really a question, but I'm just going back to what was said before about the library. Might be able to answer it. Was it at QSEC meeting, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, and I was told that one of the professional bodies for, I think it was one of the healthcare courses, they came to see the library resources and they said they were pretty impressed by them. So from a student perspective, if our professional body thinks that we should be able to go over to the library and then take our books back over, then we should be able to. So from a student perspective, I don't think we have a leg to stand on really. I think just get on with it.
Thank you for that question. Another question?
Yeah, that was Richard.
Environment and life sciences. Just a quick point really. Is there anything that can be done to improve the way exam timetables are released? Because I keep hearing that we don't get them until April and different days. What's the actual policy? And is there any way we can improve it or speed things up so that we get our timetables? Those of us that work or with your students or anyone really can plan their lives around exams.
Yeah, there is a timetabling group that is looking into both the release of the lecturing timetable for next year, but also looking at exam timetables, and we're trying to get it as soon as we can, but I will absolutely take that back. I know that's frustrating because you want to get it into your diaries as soon as possible and you want to be able to plan around it, and if you have work commitments and so forth. So I will absolutely take that back to the registrar and ask her to update. I'll get her to send a response back, and Michelle can send that out to you. But yeah, I understand the frustrations. Yeah.
Sorry, I would like to ask you, because a lot of students have talked to me about the computers in Clifford Wilford's library, and it sometimes takes ages for you to print a copy of your assignment and we've been asked to print our lectures by ourselves, and if you have a lecture from 9 o'clock and you go to the library at 8:30, most of the computers are too slow, some are out of order, and it's hard to print or do something properly on them. And if we could improve it, as you said that there are some pounds left to be spent on books or resources in the library, and if something could be done on that problem.
Well, there's a couple of things perhaps to talk about. I think first of all, the library champion budget, I think, is a ring fence, as I say, to resources. It's not for printing, but I have heard that suggestion before in the staff student committee meetings that I've reviewed the minutes of. So I hear what you're saying about printing and kind of convenience and access to it. And again, it's something that Gay and I can take back to the library. It's something that's been raised here today, give them that feedback. I will though, and I'm going to look to my colleagues here to correct me if I'm wrong, But I think I'm right in saying I've never used it, that's why I'm sounding a little bit unsure, but we now have the app that can actually let you do remote printing. Silence. Yeah, it's really following. So there are devices that will allow you to actually send printing that doesn't rely on you logging into one of the library computers, I guess is my emphasis, if that's a particular problem you're having as an experience. I would also just speak to the follow you system. It's not perfect by any means, but I use it all over the campus, and it genuinely does work very effectively from my point of view. That I can send it from my office and then pick it up in another building. So I think sometimes it's perhaps about, and again, I was saying this in the context that we will feed this back to the library and make sure they're aware of your concerns. But sometimes it can be about strategically thinking about where you launch printing from in some ways, and that you can take advantage of that, the student follow you printing facility, which is actually a really good thing, I think, that I'm not sure as many people should know about as they should. But we'll certainly take that feedback again back to the library.
So, how many of you use the follow you printing? Lots of people. And does it work reasonably well? So, do you do it the night before to pick it up the following morning, or? Because I think it wipes it after 2 days, but I think you can line it up the night before, perhaps. But yeah, it is. We as staff used to have printers in our office. Each member of staff had a printer, and we thought that we were going to be absolutely, how can we possibly cope without having a printer? And you know, we all had our printers removed, and we now use staff follow you. And actually, it is great because you can think, right, I'll be over in that building, so I'll print it off over there. So I think it just takes time to get used to it. Can we have some feedback about the weirdest thing that a student has ever raised with you? Can we have? Oh, sorry.
My flatmates wanted me to ask: is there anything that's been anything being done to improve the 50 bus going down to Media City? Because even I was waiting for it yesterday. It took me 40 minutes to get for the bus to come, when it should be about 15 minutes according to the timetable. Just wondering if there's anything being done to improve it.
Okay, we are certainly reviewing it. I know the head of the States has been looking at the number 50 bus, and I'll take that back. I mean, I've certainly caught it on a number of occasions, and it seems to be that there'll be none and then there'll be 3 all at once. So I'll let the head of states know that sometimes there are issues, but I think that has been raised with him already, that sometimes it's bus timetables, they'll all come at once and then there will be none. But yeah, I'll take that back. Was there a question over here as well? Oh.
Yeah, this question is just mainly about the library, and it's again about the computers. It's like in Clifford Whitworth. Every time I go in, even from September until now, it's like only like a third of the computers are like broke. You know, the keyboard's not responding, the mouse is not responding, nor is the screen either on or not working. So the access to computers is quite poor, especially when you need to, instead of like waiting for hours at the bottom of the library to get onto computers. Is there anything that can be actually done about that as well?
Okay, this one comes up quite a lot, and recently me and Jasmine had a meeting with the library, and what they've started to put in place is they now have staff who overnight go and log on to every computer, check the mouse, check the keyboard, check it's all working. So is your experience previous to like the past, say, week or so then?
No, well, it's like from September until now, like even yesterday I went in again to computers, screens and black and so computer keyboard wasn't responding. So
where's that? Is that Clifford Whitworth?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the library said that they've started checking the computers, so I'm not sure. We'll have to take that back, obviously. But they have started implementing a thing where they're checking all the hardware every night. So it's probably worth, yeah, we can take that back, but your estimate is about a third of all the computers we cover Whitworth.
Yeah, at least around that.
Okay, right. I'll give it over to Getty.
The university, of course, is switching over to Windows 7, and that will be done as of the 1st of April. So I think that will probably make a big difference. I know my computer only had it done quite recently, and it was taking 10 minutes for them to log in, and now it's 30 seconds. So I think once the 1st of April comes and that rollover is complete, that may help. But one of the things that we are looking at is usage, because a lot of students are now bringing their own devices, or they're hiring some of the equipment, and we are looking at trying to maximise the space that's being used to take computers up. Are there better ways of using that space? So we're looking at the way in which students are using and staff are using fixed machines, because they do take up a lot of space. They are quite busy at particular times of year, but then other times of year there's no one in at all. So we are looking at strategically how we put computers in place, and certainly we are updating on a fairly regular basis, but we will certainly take that back. I think the answer will be that once every machine is rolled over to Windows 7, it will probably be better. So can I go back to my original question, which was, what's the weirdest thing anybody's ever asked you to raise? Or do people not ask you to raise? Oh, there's one. There's one. Yeah. Another question. Sorry. I'll never get an answer to my question.
This is just a recommendation in regards to the problem with logging in for printing. What would be really useful, I find, in the library is a fixed location of like 10 computers or so that have fixed usage, so you can just log onto your email and just print directly, so that you don't have to log in. Well, it might not matter when Windows 7 rolls around, the 10-minute login window, which would really help, so that you can't use it for anything.
I think that's a really useful piece of advice, and we're also trialling that in classrooms as well, where staff don't have to go through the whole login. It's a quick login and the system's up and running. So I think that's been trialled already, but thanks for that.
I'm sorry, but this is about computers again. It's not to do with Clifford though. I mean, in the Alton learning space, there's just not enough computers at all. I mean, I saw people go in there and all the computers are full, and they've got to go into a classroom, and they get kicked out because there's a class in there, and you know, there's flaws in the Alton learning space. There's nothing happening there at the minute. So, you know, we definitely need more computers in the learning space.
So is it that you want fixed computers, or do you want places where you can plug your own computer in? Both. Laptop loads is another. I mean, we could certainly look at more laptops being available on Globe, possibly. But yeah, we'll take that back as a particular issue analogy.
Can I just ask on that? Would laptops be more welcomed? The laptop loan system be more welcomed than more fixed PCs? Off the top of your head.
From what I've spoken to some of my peers, people prefer going to computers, but then again, I haven't had much feedback on the laptop system, so I couldn't say.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, I was a bit late, so I don't know if my question's been asked, but when I came in, it was about timetabling. My suggestion to timetabling to sort it out is it possible to make timetables available for students to be able to get their hands on it if it's like in an app form? Because many students I speak to have the issue of having to log in and go to like a desktop computer or a laptop to actually access their timetables, and it would be much better, much more effective if it was able to be taken off like from an app or something on their phone. And second question, sorry for being such a biggie, is it possible to, I don't know, I've had the problem myself. I brought it up in my rep meeting, but I don't know if I can bring it up here again. It's better to do it. would it be possible so that emails are accessed on computer, on mobile phones, and also my friends that have Androids are able to access their emails, but as one with an iPhone, I'm not able to access, like, put it onto my, like, you know, the mail app that you have on your phone. I'm not able to access it that way, and sometimes I miss emails until I get back home. Thank you very much.
Yeah, the emails, yeah, I can show you when we go for break, I'll come down and show you how to do it. But yeah, you can get the university email on your iPhone quite easily. You just have to go for a couple of steps. I actually made a guide that's just sat in my computer doing nothing. I should probably publish that. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? No. The first question is about timetabling, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, about a mobile version, basically. Well, from what I understand, the current software is not mobile compatible. Is that right? Anyone know that one?
Okay, so a number of us sit on the timetabling board, and rest assured we are trying to make it better. I think the issue is we want to try and get the timetable right first of all. We have a long list of things like the activity.app. I think the views sometimes are not quite clear. So all of those things are on the long list, but our main thing is to get the timetable to work effectively. So schools are doing a lot of work at the minute, and the timetables will be released for checking in the summer, but we'll try and get them as right as possible. And we're aiming, I think, for early August, so that you should be able to get your timetables for next year in early August.
That's it then. We go for a break for 10 minutes, and then after that for the student evaluation activity. Attendance break. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.